And welcome back. This is ModelOmega, and you're watching the second half of Chapter 11 of my Thracia 776 play. Where we last left off, we have triggered the portcullis trap, and are now making our way into the fortress to take out Kempf. Yeah, as I said in the previous chapter, don't fool around with these ballista. They're damn strong and pretty damn accurate. It's also because of these guys that you must absolutely never bring safety into this chapter. Like, I don't know if it's possible for her to not be killed by these things. That's how strong they are. I made the mistake of moving Dawson forward in a vain attempt to have him help, and the damn things nearly killed him. Ugh. This section just has me moving units for 2 turns, and I don't want to just speed it up, so I'm going to skip it. Seriously, I don't know what ballista have against these. There are way more people that would be easily hit and hurt by these ballista, but they just want to go after Leafus for some reason. I just don't understand. It doesn't really happen in other Fire Emblem games. They don't go out of their way to target thieves. They go for people they can easily kill, and well, sometimes it's thieves, but I mean, I don't know. Does anyone else see a parallel to other Fire Emblem games? Because frankly, I don't. Finn may be a great unit outdoors, but when he's forced to go inside, he's pretty mediocre, below average, I would say. His stats are still okay, but the fact that he can't use his primary weapons really hurts, because he doesn't have any useful combat skills, a high PCC, or even a unique weapon that can be used indoors. The reason he's so great is because he has the Brave Lance, and he's a great lance user. If you take those two things away, he's just a mediocre swordsman. Actually, since I've been talking about Finn, I actually forgot that there's actually a gameplay mechanic introduced, well actually in the previous game, but more expanded in this one, that I have somehow completely glossed over up until now. And that is the subject of leadership stars. If you played Radiant Dawn, they probably sound a little familiar, although they didn't overtly explain it to you. So I'll go over it here. A smattering of characters you get across the game, about 7 or 8, have leadership stars. Usually just one, although there are 2 exceptions. Right now, we have 3 deployed. Leaf has 2, which he doesn't actually own himself, as when we started the game he had 0. When August and Dorius are present in the story, each of them adds 1 leadership star to Leaf. Finn also has a leadership star, and it's something that makes him a pretty good unit. Aveld had a leadership star, but we don't have her anymore, so we can't take advantage of that. And those are all the ones we have at this point. We'll get another character that has a leadership star in Chapter 13, but that won't be for a while. Enemy bosses will also have leadership stars, starting at the game with 0, but for example, Kempf here has 3, which directly counteracts our 3, meaning that there's a 0 gain or loss in hit or avoid. And part of the reasons why some chapters get really, really nasty is because some bosses have a huge amount of leadership stars. There's one you have to deal with that has 10, and it ain't pretty. But we'll get across that when we have to get to that. When it comes to engaging the group of enemies on the right, just note that when you have to take on Kempf, just remember that all you need to do is just attack him once, end the turn, and he'll escape at the start of the enemy phase. He won't try to attack you or anything like that. Just ding him, make sure he doesn't kill you in the counterattack, and you're good. Aside from Kempf, none of the other enemies in here are really that much of a threat. This bishop only has a Thunder Tome and a Psychic Staff. The Axe Armors are using Poison Axes, not Battle Axes, and the Thunder Mages are just Thunder Mages. Not really much to write home about this chapter. The only trick it really throws at you is the whole portcullis thing. The rest of it is pretty easy. I will take a little bit of time to point out that Kempf is actually holding the A-rank sword. The Master Sword. It's basically the same as the Brave Sword. It has a double attack effect, and unlike the other Master Weapons, it doesn't attack at range. But instead of being really accurate and somewhat light, it's much heavier and is way less accurate than the Brave Sword. It's up to you which one you like more. I prefer the Brave Sword because I like that it's more accurate, but, you know, whatever floats your boat. You don't get much of them anyway, and you have the Brave Sword for much longer, so I don't really even know if it's a discussion worth having. The chest in the top left contains a torch staff. It's nothing special. It's essentially a torch that can only be used by staff users and has 5 uses instead of 1. It doesn't gain the ability to project the actual torch onto a different space in the map, but it's useful in its own right, and having 5 uses does mean it has a bit more utility in it than the torch item. But there aren't very many of them anyway, so don't get too reliant on it, I guess. And guys, the rest of this chapter is really not much else to write home about, so I'm going to speed the rest of the portion of me dealing with the enemies, and then when it just comes to me moving my guys, I'm just going to end up skipping stuff. Sorry if it makes it feel like I'm not putting much effort into these, but it is really hard to find a lot of things to talk about in these long enemy turns. I'm trying my best, really. Since Leafus has enough build to do it, I'm going to have him steal Kemp's Thorn Tome, and also his Poison Sword, which will turn into an Iron Sword, which will be useful in later turns. The Thorn Tome is basically the powerful Thunder Tome. It has a lot more might and a very high crit boost, but it's quite heavy, so it'll slow down a user. There are only really 2 units in the game that can really get away with using it, since they have the rank to wield it, but it's useful to have when it is. Only having 10 uses kinda sucks though. And does anyone else find it odd that... why is it called Tron here? It was called that in Genealogy of the Holy War as well, but it's called Thorn everywhere else. Where the heck did they get Tron from? I mean, it can't be like a... Does anyone know what Tron even means in a lightning sense? Does it have something to do with like the Tron movie? Because I only saw Tron Legacy, and they didn't really talk about what Tron meant in that, so maybe I should look this up a bit. Damn, this can't be. Retreat, I'll be back. Hey, what the crap? How the heck did he use a rewarp staff? He doesn't even have a staff rank, let alone an A rank in staffs. Do characters in this game use warp powder like the Black Knight? Oh, I'm sick of this game's mechanics not translating into the story. And that's basically it for this chapter. I'll see you guys in Chapter 11X once I get around to doing the narration for it. This has been ModelOmega. Thank you for watching. Please leave a rating, comment, subscribe if you want to. And thanks again for watching. See you guys later.
Very impressive. I'm sure the enemy won't be able to escape if we capture this place this quickly. However, we must not rest. There are children being held captive here as well. We must kill off the rest of the enemy and rescue the children.